Good afternoon and good morning, everybody. It is great to see how many of you have joined us here today, and welcome to this webinar hosted today by Tata Elxsi. The speaker today is Narendra Ghate, Chief Designer from Tata Elxsi. Narendra is a distinguished alumnus from the Industrial Design Centre in Mumbai. He is an international speaker and thought leader on user experience and service design. Narendra is a chief designer at Elxsi, which works for the intersection of technology, digital design, and humans. He has led design projects for brands across the world and across industries, including automotive, rail, consumer electronics, and technology. We encourage you to ask plenty of questions at any point during the webinar. Please type in your questions into the Q&A box you will find at the bottom of the screen. At the end of the presentation, we will present your questions and answer as many as possible. It is an absolute pleasure to have Narendra with us today, and I would like to warmly welcome him now to take control and begin the session.
Hey. Thank you very much. And welcome, gentlemen, ladies. And it's a pleasure and it's an honor to be able to, really discuss and talk about a really favorite area of mine, which is the passenger experience, or the experience that people get in mass transits and especially in rails and metros. And thank you for this wonderful introduction. So my name is Narendra Ghate, and just to add a little bit to what you heard, I've been with Tata Elxsi right from my campus recruitment, which was 23 years ago when I did my design from IIT Mumbai. And over the last so many years, we have sort of seen design and technology really grow within the company. And we've had various chances and various opportunities to do some really wonderful work. So today, what I want to really do is share my opinion and some of my experience in terms of what constitutes passenger experience design, especially for railways and metros. And then I would elaborate on one particular case study and really show some of the details. So let me just start off by just a couple of slides on Tata Elxsi. And we are a company that focus on design and technology. And this we apply in these four sort of verticals: transportation, consumer electronics, communication, and medical electronics. And what we've seen now over the years is there's a lot of cross-pollination of ideas and technology that goes across these domains. And that has really helped us. So some of the core work that we've done in rail or transportation has helped, you'd be surprised, in medical electronics, for example, or some of the work that we do in communication really helps somewhere else. And one of the core things that I would like to say is, if you look at the person, if you look at the human, sometimes he's a passenger in a car, he's a driver in a car, sometimes he's watching TV, sometimes he's working on a mobile, sometimes he's talking to somebody, sometimes he's a patient, sometimes he's a doctor, teacher, right? So the person remains constant across these different domains, and he just changes his roles as he does different things in the day. And this person, and understanding this person well, is what design does. And what we try and do within design is to really understand the human aspects of this particular person that all this technology and products are being designed for. And when we know that person deeply, we are able to design better for him. And that's what applies to when he's let's say, a passenger in a metro system, right? Uh, as a company, we are fairly lucky, and I would say unique, that we are about 500 people in the design studio, which makes us a large design studio. But we also have more than 7,000 people on the software and technology sides. And this allows us as designers who like to dream and not worry about how things are done, uh, to really walk the talk. We are able to come up with ideas and really get them tested with our engineering teams and really know what is feasible, what is not feasible. And as a result, a lot of our design is very feasible, practical, and hence implemented in all our projects. I mean, just a quick snapshot. On the left-hand side is some of the work that we've done on the technology side, whether it is our own autonomous vehicle program, or the kind of communication systems that were designed for India's first mission to Mars. We are very proud of that. Or the kind of work that we do in media and electronics when it comes to televisions and other areas. On the design side, we've done a lot of HMI or automotive interface work. Mumbai T2 International Airport, which is one of the largest or at least one of the best ones in India and hopefully around the world. Again, we were privileged to be chosen to design the passenger experience in this airport. So everything that you see in the airport, apart from the architecture elements, have been something that we have designed and put together. Plus, of course, we do wearables, products, all of that. So that's a quick sort of intro about the company and the kind of things we do. But now let's get to the topic. Let's really look at passenger experience design. And why? I mean, why should I worry about it? Or why should anybody who is a rail operator or an OEM really worry beyond a certain point or beyond something obvious about the passenger experience design? Yes, I mean, you could say that that's how I make my revenue. That is the utility that is provided to the city. People, you have an environment positive impact when people use metros rather than trains. So all of this is known, obvious, and it's fine. There's nothing wrong with it. But beyond that, what is the reason? Why should you care about how a passenger feels or what kind of experience he gets when he is using your system? And then what I would like to show later on is how it could be done. And that's the case study that I would like to bring about. So if you think about it, metro systems have the power, they have the ability to actually start defining the culture of a city. Whether it's a London Underground, whether it is the New York subway or the Delhi metro, the way people behave, the way the things are put, it starts creating a culture. It is a culture that is reflective of how the city is, and it is always very, very unique, right? Now, when these systems are originally designed, whether it's a metro in New York or in London, they were designed as a very clinical, dry sort of environment for utility. But the city and its culture creeped in, and you have these musicians, and you have people playing cards in Mumbai, and you have somebody working in a long distance train in England. So you have all of these sort of habits and behaviors and elements coming in and creating a culture, a sub sort of community within the trains. And what I'm trying to say is, this need not be happenstance. We can actually design such that we can create a culture, or we can encourage certain positive behavior. Certain, the train should be a place where people get happy, or there is something that is always happening there. So we could actually create these systems, and that is a huge power that metro systems can have in any city. Almost nothing else in a city can create a culture like its infrastructure. And just next step towards that is the identity of the place also becomes through the mass transit or through the metro systems or trams, right? I mean, every day you have thousands of people using it, for their daily livelihood, and that automatically creates the visual landscapes, that creates, memories for people, and that is another important element that the passenger experience design, or how you design this entire elements that are now into your city, can define its identity. And we of course have the people themselves. Now, whether in Japan, where they would sleep and get up perfectly when their stations arrive, or how everybody's on their mobiles or something else, you have people changing their behavior, being in a particular mode, a particular zone when they enter a train. And that really is something that becomes unique and becomes something that we can create, we can define, and it could get people, let's say, to the actual consumer delight, or if I could push it slightly more, really create that elements of love for the experience that you're getting. I mean, like this kid that is really enthralled by the kind of visuals that she's getting, or somebody who likes to switch off and relax in a train, because in your entire daily hectic life, train is the only thing that is always certain. You always know that this is the train you're going to catch, this is where you're going to get off, and that is the only certainty in your day that day, and hence you can really switch off. I mean, there are so many elements that start becoming your relationship, with your metro system. So what I'll do is I'll try and elaborate on one such project that we did and how we tried to create, or at least create a opportunity for these kind of positive experiences to be done, plus the actual utility elements that can be pushed towards a better experience. So this particular one is Kochi. Kochi is a small city in south of India, but it's very culturally rich place, and we were very lucky to have opportunity to really do some greenfield thinking. I mean, the MD there was very open-minded to allow an across the board kind of experience elements to be introduced into the entire system, and I'll sort of show you that. And let's start with some of the hard factors that we were talking about. So Kochi is very ambitious. It is growing. It is something that is inevitable in terms of where it will go. And automatically, when we were discussing with them, so we were pitching in terms of what we would like to do or what kind of impact design can bring in a metro system. And we were essentially showing them things that they already knew, that these are the hard facts. These are things for which you're doing the metro system to really reduce pollution, get more businesses flowing, get people to be able to go really from one to another. But what we tried to then emphasize as the next part of that discussion is to really bring in the soft aspects of what a metro does to a city. And we discussed these various opportunities or various things that would change. So for example, you have this girl who now can work in an office on the other side of town, and she can do that because she knows she can reach home safely in the night because the metro system is there, and her family is also very comfortable with that, and she's now very happy to support her family. I mean, these are the kind of experiential human stories that really make a big difference. The fact that I'm able to spend more time with my family because the metro guarantees my ability to reach home on time, it is something that is so valuable. Kochi is a huge tourist attraction. It has many, many cultural aspects. And we would like tourists to feel very comfortable, so we want them to be happy to be back. And being able to navigate the city without any hassles is such an important thing for people who are coming to the city for the first time. So that automatically becomes an important element that Kochi realized that's what, or the Kochi Metro realized that's what, is the main or some of the key elements why this entire infrastructure is being built. Again, it has a lot of population that is retired. And as you would have heard in many cities, that they get so polluted, they get so complicated that many old people are uncomfortable just stepping out and doing their things that they would have done. You may not want to sort of go to a far off place to see the sunset because it's such an hassle. But now you can, because there is again something that is very consistent, stable, safe. The point I'm trying to make here, and point we made when we pitched this, was that these are the elements that will really make the metro system something that people love. And we understand these, we understand what is needed to be able to get this thing going, and we'll help you do that. And that's how we sort of got this project, and we got an ability to really find opportunities in across all systems, whether it is the rolling coaches or the rails itself, or the platforms, or the signaling systems, or the signage systems, the branding. So we were able to sort of create a unified sort of experience across all the touch points. And now to do that, one of the key things, again, just to come back to what I was saying, was it is no longer fine to just do the bare minimum that is required, because that is something that people just take for granted. people take for granted that I'll be able to go from A to B. And as you can see, this Maslow's hierarchy, that there are elements that we identified, which is something that would be as a part of any spec when an RFQ is created, right? Maybe they would add certain other technology elements like, oh, we should have a Wi-Fi or we should have something else. But what about something that creates uniqueness, creates delight, creates, an ability to, make a difference? So those were the kind of elements that we tried to find, which could create a wow factor, which could be beyond the basic utility. And that's what we tried to do as a part of this project. The first element of any such project, because I'm not from Kochi, I'm from Bangalore, at least I'm living in Bangalore, though I'm from Mumbai. But the point is, you really need to know what is the existing culture of the city to be able to reflect that into the infrastructure and especially the metro systems that are going to get into that city. And as a aside, we have done many such projects where we have designed in terms of product design or automotive styling, uh, nose cones or the entire frontage and livery of various metro systems that will reflect what the city stands for. So you might have a standard design that comes from a rail manufacturer, but you still are able to customize the elements that are customizable so that they reflect the city and it becomes unique. And that's what city officials want. They want something that reflects their work or reflects their culture and something that they can influence. And the best way to do it is really be able to explain how styling of a vehicle can be connected to what the city stands for. So, but the first step for that is to really understand what the culture of the place is. And again, it was a large project. I'm just showing you a few slides or few elements of this. But first, of course, was to understand Kochi. Second was to really understand the people, all the stakeholders, not just the people who are traveling, but people who would be employed, people who would be impacted, the businesses that will come up, the secondary connections that will happen, trying to understand all of them, right? Then, of course, was really find benchmarks across the world. What can I learn from London? What can I learn from Singapore? What is it that I should not do because they have done, and sort of now it's too late for them. So really try and find out the best practices to be brought back into the project here. And those becomes the key action items or insights that are informing design. So like I said, so there's a lot of depth to Kochi, and there's a lot of variance within different locations within Kochi. To try, so we did spend a lot of time, interviewed a lot of people from different walks of life to really understand what their life is, what are they expecting, and that allowed us to sort of create a very good picture of what could be the aesthetic sense of people, what could be the lifestyles that they have, what is it that they expect as a service, what kind of competing services that they have that they look at. So we sort of got a lot of depth understanding of what the city was. And then, of course, was the entire benchmarking to whether it is the Delhi Metro or we went to Singapore, we went to other places to really find out how is technology being used, how are people behaving, what is it that is different, how, there's so many aspects to learn in different locations, and we brought back a lot of that learning. And like I said, the different people, the kind of themes that were arising based on the kind of people that we talked to. I mean, after multiple discussions, there were these core needs, then there were those unsaid needs, there was those value added things that they would really love to have. We started capturing all of that and trying to see which could be translated into design elements or touch points for the kind of work that we're doing. The culture in terms of the kind of heritage that they have, the kind of art that is there. How do I create a platform where some of the art and heritage and culture actually finds a vent or finds a way to express itself? Can I really bring that elements in so that I know that this is how I am predicting a behavior of a set of people? So by understanding these things, we were able to then decide or start defining spaces within the entire platforms or within the entire infrastructure where we could have certain cultural elements, we could have certain graphics, we could have so many other things. So there was a lot of, what I'm trying to say through all this is, by spending time and by really becoming or understanding what Kochi is, we were able to think like a people that are going to use a system. And when, as a designer, if I'm immersed into that uh, context that I'm designing for, then when I'm taking my design decisions, it becomes easier to really, um, understand what will work, what will not work. So as a designer, I don't have to make 20 concepts, which I can because I can be a creative person. But I will make that one because I know which is correct, which is not correct. So that automatically starts all elements, whether it's a font selection or whether it's a color selection, everything starts falling into place because now you're thinking for the people that you're designing for. And you can think because you've been there, you've stepped into their shoes. So that's what this entire research aspect really helps us, do. And then the actual projects starts where we start trying to find the actual journey, and it is no longer about the metro system. It is no longer about the entire life around the metro. It is about life around the person. So trying to understand his journey before he enters the metro, in the metro, and after the metro. So all of that becomes something that we really try and understand. Different kind of people, what is their first mile, what is, do they have to do some intermediate transitions, what do they do in the last mile, where they're going, why they're going, how. So we understand and we map the entire journey, and then we try and find out what all elements can the metro do to make this journey easy and smooth. And there were many ideas that came up as a part of this entire journey. So one of the things that is obviously talked about quite often, but we managed to implement, and I'll show you some elements later on, is that why should I have to have different payment modes across my journey when my journey is just a single one? It's just that there are intermediate modes that are different. So an auto rickshaw, or like a private, it's a hired vehicle, or a bus, or the metro system, all of it should just recognize me and then pay me for my transition. And how do I bring that in through technology? How do I bring it in through simplicity? Is again something that, and there are many such ideas that started coming up, because now we were only looking at passenger experience, we are looking at customer delight, right? And then everybody was trying to get aligned to that. So whether it is the signage systems or the ticketing systems, I'll show you some ideas. So as an initial part, we mapped out this journey and we tried to create these elements of intervention that could be simple design touch points that will allow a unified experience across. I mean, when I start my journey, I do not want any drop of experience that I'm getting. So the level of service should be consistent whether I am right across my journey. So whether it is parking, whether it is lift, whether it is accessibility, whether it's information that is available outside the metros, whether it is, why should I have to pay differently? Why can't I use my metro ticket to pay for my parking? I mean, these are the elements that start coming up once you start thinking in a unified design intervention point of view. Right? So once you sort of enter the train or enter the concourse, enter the platform, what are the elements that you could do? Should you need assistance? Do you want a human to help and be there, be representation or representative of the metro system? Why is it needed? What kind of people would need his help? How should that entire interaction happen? So there are these small softer elements that start coming to life, and that we sort of create opportunities or create design interventions for that. I'll give you another idea for another example. So this one, if you can see the bottom image, in London, for example, they have this iconic but very strange, if I can say that, mind the gap announcement, where there is a gap between the uh, coach and the platform, and the announcement warns you don't fall into that, there's a gap there. Now here, what we thought, and this is how that ideas start coming up, is why don't I have a light at the entrance which matches and opens along with the door? So imagine when the doors slide open, this light also nicely opens up. It automatically shines on the gap so that you know that there's a gap, and it's a welcoming sort of an indication saying that this is where I am, please come in. Now these are small elements that you start seeing every day, and then that becomes let's say an iconic feature for that particular uh, rail system, and that's what you remember. So that's what we pushed for. Or I'll give another example, which is again opportunity that I'm surprised has not been done often before. Every time the door opens or door is closing, you have this beep 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 sound that is typically warning people of either the door is being opening or closing. And of course it's needed because if you have people who are slightly having issues with their sight, they understand what is happening. I mean, it is part of all design or all creation of metros. But now imagine, instead of this beep beep sound, it was a iconic tune, like the Intel Inside thing that you have. Imagine every time the door opens, there's a particular tune that comes in, and you hear it every day, and that becomes the brand or the audio brand for the metro. So any advertisement, any announcement, anywhere else that you want to do outside, maybe on the radio, that starts becoming the signature tune, and then that creates the entire identity of the thing. So these are opportunities that are begging to be used, and they get unearthed when you start thinking about the entire journey from a passenger point of view. I'll give another, and there are so many of them. So for example, I will have these hundreds and thousands of people now so-called captive in my system, but am I doing anything about it? Fine. So I mean, you will have trying to show ads, and all of that is there, but why can't I have a radio channel? Why can't I have a specific radio channel that is heard only when I'm in the metro? And then of course, I have, it starts becoming a cultural element. Maybe it has some talking points, maybe it has some songs, maybe it has something else, but that becomes something that people get used to. That becomes again a uniqueness for the system, and something that the passengers would delight. So there are many such touch points and many such ideas that come up once you start thinking about the passenger journey through the system. Right. So whether, I mean, this presentation that we did had some 200 slides, so I will not go through all of that. But the point is, there are many opportunities that come up at various levels of design, whether it is on technology, whether it is communication, whether it is signage systems, just furniture, so many elements. So all of that can be now created in a unified way to create this identity of the system. Talking about identity, the first thing that we did and was an important was to really create a brand. And everybody has seen metro logos, but there's a history, or there's a story in terms of how a logo is designed. And it's not just about the logo, it is about trying to create what is the big idea, what is the thing that this metro stands for. And in Kochi, after our initial research and a lot of discussions with all officials, connect to prosper was the big idea, was the main tagline, or was the main reason for the metro to exist. Right? It's connecting people, and through connections people are prospering. So that was the really big idea, and that became the inspiration for various sort of visual interpretations, including the brand or including the logo. So this is what the logo that we created, and it is a very simple but iconic uh, graphic, which you would remember, which would be easy to replicate. Remember, this logo would be made thousands and hundreds and thousands of times, whether it's on your signages or whether it is on your visiting cards, or there's so many places. So this has to be done, something that can be implemented flawlessly, consistently across the system. But it has to stand for something. It has to, in this case, it was KMRL, Kochi Metro Rail. So that is what this logo stands for. Plus, as a part of the entire thinking, we are also doing this integrated mass transit system. So it was not just the rail, but it was also the water bus. It was, Kochi has beautiful backwaters. So in fact, this is the next project that we're currently doing, the water bus. Then you have the bus systems, you have the taxis, you have cycle systems. So all of that starts becoming unified under the brand architecture. So that is what was the first step. Then, of course, was the entire visual language. How should Kochi Metro express itself? How should this brand express itself? How do I bring about the cultural elements so that it is deeply rooted in culture, but it is modern and something that people can aspire for? And then we created this entire series of visual identity elements. So whether it is simple things like watch a step in terms of how it should be, a very modern way of representing that, to the kind of graphics and icons that you'll have across the system. And then when you start applying it at various places, whether it is your signages, whether it's your brochures, whether it is your wayfinding systems, then it starts feeling like a single family. Then it starts making sense. Then it starts creating a delight, creating something that you would love. And then you'd automatically start thinking that if I have to now design, let's say, a dustbin for Kochi Metro system, what it should be. So everything that now becomes part of KMRL starts falling into this language that is created, and then it is how you sort of create a consistent visual identity that can really last for a long time. And that's how a brand is created. That's where it becomes iconic, memorable, and something that you would aspire for. So we can, and we have designed this with that kind of thinking in mind. Now let's get to some of the actual design elements, and there are many of them. So let's start off with just a signage system. And if you think about it, in a metro, signage, whether it's wayfinding or locations or whatever, they are the ones that are actually representing the metro system. There's no official around. There's no, apart from the ticket booth, there's nobody on the platform to say that, I am metro. So it's a signages that is representing the authority. Hence, it has to be something that people will adhere. It has to look authoritative enough so that when it says to do something, you do something, right? So it has to feel that way. Yet it also has to create a visual identity that allows people to remember. And behind all of that, it has to be very simple to understand. So that if tomorrow there is a fire and if I have to evacuate the entire metro in 3 minutes, in that state of mind, my cognition should work with the signages and I should really know where to follow, where to go, right? So it has this huge scientific requirement, plus it has this other design elements that really make signage a fairly tricky kind of work to do. And it is also about wayfinding. So every location is unique, every station is unique, and the journeys are different. So how do I guide people without over signing, without creating too many decisions and too many information? How do I get people to really move and take it for granted and just walk through the system without really getting lost or without getting concerned, right? And again, in India, sadly, even now we have a lot of illiterate people. We have people who do not cannot read or may not be able to read English, for example, or may not be able to read other languages. So how do I create this multi-language signage system? And how do I create something that is welcoming and comfortable to somebody who is, let's say, illiterate? If you think about it, an illiterate person would feel very uncomfortable walking into a fancy mall, and he would feel out of place, he would feel belittled, he would not be he will feel not welcome over there. But this is metro system, it is for him. He has to feel welcome there, he has to feel comfortable there, he has to feel confident over there, right? And now if you think about it, that is a role of the signage system. Signage system is the visual interface for the infrastructure with the people using it. And so how do I really make that happen? So these elements sort of come in when we are designing for signage. Then of course you have these elements about cognition, readability, different sign types, cost of every sign. How can I design the sign so that it will last for 10 years in rain, sun, all of the physical elements of design, all of that come in. So then that becomes a signage project itself, which is again something that we've done very often. The entire graphic language, there are certain signs that are universal that have to be followed, so that whether it's an airport or a metro, it is the same thing that you'll see. But beyond that, what is the color system? If we have 2 lines, 4 lines, 6 lines later on, how does that expand? How do I know when I'm going from one line to another? How loud should it be? What are the different icons? How do I get consistency across? So all of that is again something that we designed, and again many pages of this work with all prototypes and mock-ups and tests. So it becomes a very nice, interesting project. So this is just some photos of some of the signage systems that we implemented, right from floor signs to how it would look. Graphics, the you know the London Metro map is such an iconic one, and that has sort of created a rule for map making for all metros. So that automatically started helping us define what should be the Kochi Metro map. So that was the signage design. Then, of course, some of the more easier but still important elements is the entire livery design in terms of what people see, whether it is the colors of the coach or the graphics on it, right? And again, like I said, we were lucky to be able to have a say in many elements of it. So we did many iterations. So this is a rendering, many iterations of what should be the color, how should I define which is a woman only seat, which is a let's say handicapped seat, how many people would be standing, or how should I get the entire flow of people going inside. So a lot of that we were lucky to give some inputs, and so these were some more renders, and these were implemented. We were very proud to have our Prime Minister inaugurate a metro system. So that's just one of the photos with him. So that was, let's say, the livery part. And of course, the exteriors in terms of, now that I have this entire visual system, how do I really show it around? How do I make my metro really unique? And if you look at the front cowl or the front face design, again, you have ability to really style it in a way that becomes unique to the city. So again, that is something that we helped. Of course, a lot of touch points in the system are your environment, your station furniture, all the aesthetic elements. And again, there was all these beautiful opportunities that we had to really, whether it is the advertisement systems, whether it's just a pillar decoration, whether it's the entrance. So one of the things that we did was try and create a unique look for every station. And that unique look reflected the locality where the station was actually placed. So that allowed us to, for example, create station entrances, create interiors that became different, became iconic, became unique to that particular, and would reflect the locality. So I'll just go back. Another important aspect of our project, which is all the services, right? Where or should you have a baby room or a feeding room or not? Should you have a prayer room or not? What services do you want? Where do you want the shops? How do you want the entire retail to work in concourse? So a lot of that started becoming a part of how everything should be designed, so that you can start defining how people would spend time or what would happen. So again, we had a lot of inputs that we gave as a part of that. The different graphics that I was talking about. Right, so just some of the initial images. And then, of course, the entire digital aspect of it. And this is, again, something that I'm quite proud of, because some of it, I think we did it for the first time. So we were, Axis Bank is, again, a very forward-looking bank. And the metro ticket, apart from your normal ticket that you can get, which is the printout that you see there, is also a bank card. Now, if you think about India, if you think about during that time. That's just when the entire demonetization and all of that happened. So the digital currency suddenly became very important, and people were very uncomfortable buying credit cards or swiping cards for transaction. But everybody is very comfortable swiping cards for metros. So metro is something that people trust, and now you have a metro card which is also your bank card, which means not only can you swipe the card for your ticket, but you can use your ticket to buy groceries. And now that becomes a unique opportunity for everybody, for the bank, for the customers, and for the metro system itself. And you suddenly have many people who now start getting onto the digital currency aspect and start using this ticket, because now it's so much easier. You don't have to stand in a queue to buy a ticket. It's easy to online top up your cards, and it just makes the entire accessibility for trains so easy, because now you have the card with you and you can go anytime, anywhere, right? Plus, of course, the physical ticketing machine, the interfaces for that, how they would look, all of that started becoming part of the let's say digital work that we did. And of course, not to forget the entire app aspect of it. And again, this is something that we really tried to bring in different elements. And I'll give you one example of what we tried to do. If you think about it, any metro or any let's say mass transit infrastructure is a reactive system, meaning I want to go there, hence I think about the metro, and hence I use the metro. So metro becomes an afterthought because I want to do certain activity. And we thought, why should it be like that? Why can't the metro start initiating certain activities? Why can't it start calling people? So, for example, if there is a Yanni concert happening in one part of the town, the metro will send you a message saying that, there's this concert. We know you like this kind of music. It's a weekend. Do you want to go there? The ticket is in, part of your, the concert ticket is part of your metro tickets. You can actually go there, and there's a discount if you do that. The point being that metro starts sort of trying to intermingle with your life and start giving you opportunities to be proactive in terms of citizen life. So again, that is something that we try to do. I have a small film that I will show you that just quickly captures some of the work. And then I think, the 5 minutes we should be done. I hope you can hear the sound, but it's just the music.
Is one of the fastest growing cities in the nation. Culturally sophisticated, artistic, friendly, and sensitive to its environment and heritage, the city is truly a paragon for the future. Kochi Metro Rail Limited is committed to providing a safe, secure, seamless, and integrated transportation system for the city. Tata Elxsi, with their expertise in service and experience design, aided KMRL in developing the passenger experience of the metro beyond just utility. We at Tata Elxsi understand that connection catalyzes growth and is vitally essential for prosperity. This ambition led to the vision Connect to Prosper. The process of redefining passenger experience began from a contextual understanding of different users and their ways of interacting with the metro system. This study gave insights that helped develop a cohesive system for better mobility, well attuned to the needs and aspirations of its users. Tata Elxsi worked towards creating a unified brand identity, establishing Kochi Metro and its related services as trustworthy and relatable. The customer experience is enhanced by the thoughtful design of user-friendly spaces, attractive interiors, utilitarian paratransit systems, intuitive wayfinding, and information design for hassle-free travel. To bring a true revolution in urbanization, we integrated mobility with digital experiences by linking all modes of commute through various digital touchpoints, thus providing a unified experience.
Amidst accelerating urbanization and growing concerns about the population, there is a desperate need for an urban mass transit solution in Indian cities. Partnering with Tata Elxsi has helped KMRL to create a new standard for our service for our customers. and succeed in our vision to achieve a seamless and integrated transport experience.
So that was just a quick film to just capture what I was talking about. And we're very happy to be awarded various awards for this work. And I have awards, which is a very prestigious award in Germany. And we were the first service design award in India. So we were quite happy to be sort of part of that. So with that, I would like to end my small little talk. And I hope you found it interesting and you understood, or at least I expressed, how we can bring about various design elements to create a good passenger experience.
Narendra, thank you very much for that. I just want to say that was absolutely superb. I really enjoyed that. That was a brilliant presentation, completely different, and it was just fascinating. I've got a question from myself to start with, if I may, for the Q&A bit. Kochi Metro, first of all, the logo you designed was brilliant. I think that is a fantastic looking logo, and with all the signage and everything you do, it was just like, as they say, less is more. It just looks, it's brilliant. It looked fantastic. From start to finish, how long did that project take?
Oh, the entire project took about 3 years, but part of the reason for 3 years is the project has to be in pace with the actual construction of the stations. So for example, when a new station is being constructed, the signage that has to be installed actually can be done only after the station is done. So while we would have designed the location and the signage earlier, the implementation happens in pace. So that's why the project sort of lingers along with the metro project. But the core thinking and the core visual and the design identity work, that got done in 6 months.
Right. How long did it take you to get that logo right?
So research played a lot of a big role in trying to really feel what could be the correct logo. And but the logo was finalized by the 3rd month. So yeah, but yes, we
How
did
many?
do a few iterations before this logo sort of became something that all of us agreed on.
Yeah, it's a very clever logo. I really do like it. Okay, I've got a question here from you. Okay, a question here from Sunil. Great narrative. Can you give some insight into the design process that helps you get a consensus among so many stakeholders like rolling stock company, digital partners, government authorities, etc.? So how do you bring all those people together and they all agree on yes?
I think he has put the finger on the most difficult part
Yeah.
of the entire system or entire project. But that is where I think designers have a secret weapon. Um, I mean, I'll give an example. Imagine you are an architect and you are building a house for somebody. Now, if you create this beautiful rendering of the house that is yet to be built, and people love the way the house is going to look, then everybody is eager to build the house the way you have planned it. And then whether it's a carpenter or whether it is the masonry guys, all of them sort of know what is the vision, and then they try and follow that. So partly our work is to really communicate the end result and the end benefits that will help everybody. So if you remember the initial things that I talked about, how people's lives will change. So once we start creating this entire narrative and this entire visual elements about what all is needed to achieve that goal, people fall in line because it is something that is tangible, something that seems to make sense, and it is something that it's not about them deciding A versus B. It's all of us suddenly are aligned because this is what we want to do. So then it becomes easier. Of course, in this case, like I said, the MD was very aligned with this kind of vision, and that allowed some of the, I mean, for example, in the original specs that was given out to the rolling stock, the light strip that I talked about was not part of the spec. But then everybody realized that, oh, it should be there, or the music that should happen when the door opens, everybody agreed that it's a good idea. So then, it just got implemented without having to really push too much.
So when you're dealing with all these stakeholders for the first time, are you just showing them, opening their eyes, for example, like this is what it could be like, you just mold them to, because I'm guessing they're going to have their own ideas on how they want to look and feel and so on.
Yes, in fact, so that's the beauty of it. And even the current project that we're working on, there's a lot of rendering, there's a lot of creation of things that don't exist that we show people. So if I'm showing a concourse, if I'm showing that, this is where we could have these particular elements during Christmas, this is how it should translate or transform itself to bring in the happy spirit into the station. So once they sort of, and just imagine the station is not in build, but now I'm talking about creating a Christmas environment that is changeable to a Diwali environment in a station. Now people are able to understand that, and then they are able to say that, what, we had not planned for these lights, but maybe we should change these lights to this, and maybe we should have this programmable thing so that during the evenings the light would change, and that would, so there's a lot of co-creation that happens, and there's a lot of participation that happens, and then it just becomes easy. Then my job as a designer would be to sort of suggest and maybe even pull them back when they start getting too ambitious and trying to create too many crazy things.
Well, you got to pull them back when they start getting excited, don't they? That's why you're the designer. Another question here from Jose. How experienced design influenced the actual rail car design beyond the colors and decoration? For example, accessibility.
So this I should admit that, considering the kind of systems that are there, a lot of the actual rail coach is something that is defined and it doesn't change. But how the grab handle should be, where should people sit, some of those elements are something that design can influence. I mean, we're doing other projects at a completely different level where we are actually helping engineer some of this rolling stock or some of these coaches, and there of course this really helps. But when the product is being sold to a metro system, most of the product is already spec'd in, it's already something that is selected, and then the influence of design reduces to how the front fascia would look, how the seats and the colors and maybe the layout can change, and some other elements. So I mean, we had many ideas of what could happen, but not all could be implemented for obvious practical reasons.
Okay, many thanks. Another question for you. Will COVID experience dramatically affect design strategy across the world?
So it is something that we're all living in, and like we were discussing before we started, that hopefully within 6 months, it would go away. But metro systems have to come back in people's lives much earlier, because people who use metros, they're really stuck without it. So now it's a question of creating comfort, question of some ability to create an actual difference. So a visual cleaning of the cars in front of you, for example, or certain ability to have certain parts. I mean, what I'm trying to say is, there are certain perception elements that can be brought in to make people feel safe, and then there are some actual things that have to be done so that the cars are actually safe. Both would have to be done, but they would not fully solve the problem, but it is something that we'll have to live with.
Okay, many thanks. I've got a question here from Ashwin. So, is local language a barrier in design considerations? Say, in Kochi, Malayalam is the local language, and the commuters are from the entire world. How will Tata manage that?
So, in fact, in India, most of the signages are multi-sign sandwiches. So, which means if I have a simple signboard, I'm going to have the local language, English, and the national language, Hindi. And what we've done for Bangalore Metro when we designed that, or for Kochi here, try and create a font that works for all three. I mean, I'll give you an example. So I'm not from Kochi, so I cannot really understand Malayalam at all. So when I look at something written in Malayalam, it is all gibberish to me. When somebody who's studied Malayalam but does not know English, when he looks at English letters, it is gibberish to him. So how do I reduce the gibberish noise in this visual design that I'm creating of the sign? And that can be done if I create fonts that work well with each other. That also allows us to, sort of place or pace the kind of signs. And the other aspect is, how can I not have too many signs? Because it costs too much, and second is, if I'm going to have three languages, then it starts becoming huge number of plates, and then you don't have enough ceiling height, so it starts getting into the practical aspects of it. So a lot of trust has to be built so that people can trust the signs. So I'll give an example. If I have to exit, I need not be told which door to exit till that decision has to be made after 10 signs, when I'm gone through, a couple of sort of turns and twists. And when the time comes where I have to decide whether I have to take a left turn or right turn, that is when the information is needed to me, and that is when the information should be given to me. But if I don't have trust in the system and I see only an exit sign, I have to ask my neighbor saying that, I have to go to this particular place. Where is my exit? Right? So to be able to not get that kind of dependency and get trust into the system, again, it's the way you would use a local language, use a font to really create that trust into the system.
Thank you very much. I've got another question for you here. Good evening, sir. I am from India pursuing industrial transportation design. Generally in design school, we are only taught about individual mobility design, like car and trucks. What are the opportunities for a transportation designer in public transport design? Why transportation design as system designing is unknown to many?
Well, it should be known to many because so many people use it, and this entire systems being created as a without a proper design thought in it is a major calamity, or major definitely something that is wrong. But yes, as a transportation designer, you should think of systems, you should think of people's mobility. That's where the world is going. That is where so where you don't really have to style a train, but to really understand how the entire system works, to understand integrated transports, into multimodal transports, all of that is something that you could learn, you should learn. And I agree, it is not taught often enough.
Thank you very much. Another question here from Harry Babu. How safety of passengers was ensured in travel for life and for belongings? Any technology to support in terms of AI or IoT?
So the one thing about trains and many of these projects is they cannot have a shelf life. They cannot be obsolete, right? So we have to put in systems that are going to last for 10 years. A lot of this technology is emerging, whether it is AI or IoT, and it is not something that is stable or something that can be integrated as a part of the core design. But to answer your question, there are elements that are added that we have done for other projects, not for Kochi, where, for example, cameras are used to study people passenger movement, count a number of people, find out whether a particular train which is a more popular train, which is less popular train, how do I adjust my schedules? So there are all of these technology elements that can be added on the backend system or on top of an existing system to really bring in that modernness. But many times the core design, in terms of how coach is designed or how a platform is designed, that is still done for 10 years, 20 years, 100 years kind of a life expectancy.
Thank you. Another question on lifetime. Will lifetime of a single coach or whole metro corresponds to the budget of its construction? And what can be maintenance activities applicable to serve people as their 100th trip still feels like the same as the first trip?
Okay, so one, maybe I'm not fully qualified to answer all elements. I mean, there are people in our company who do metro coach design at a very engineering level. But from what I know is there are such high standards of materials and engineering that is used that any metro coach that you see today is been designed for a long life, irrespective of budget. So the budget is managed by having a design that can be used across multiple cities, so that the coaches look the same, but they're still made to look different through livery. And that's how some of the budgets are managed. But in terms of design, it is created such that it can last for the lifetime, and it does not really depend on the budget.
Thank you. Another question for you. Will there be any redesigns to make Metro accessible for major disabilities like blindness or limb malfunction?
Oh yes, this is now a rule, and it is part of almost every design that we do, whether it is the tactile tiles that we have or certain audio signatures that we have, to really make it accessible, friendly for everybody. In fact, it is not just a rule, it is something that all of us should definitely think and do, and we have definitely done that.
Thank you very much. Another question. Have you faced a situation when an idea after implemented or while building wasn't as you expect? And if there was a situation where we could make changes to make things better?
Yeah, sure. So one of the aspects of design is this entire thing of prototyping or creating a high fidelity mock-up so that you get to taste your design before it is implemented. So many of the mistakes or changes are found there. So the initial sort of slightly sketchy conceptual design gets much more firmed up in this mock-up or prototype kind of a situation, and that's when you can really do some of the changes so that you don't really uh, risk creating something that is a wrong design or a bad design. So it is for example, for Mumbai monorail or for some other work that we're doing, we have created 1:1 mock-ups where certain citizens or the mayor is actually coming, sitting, evaluating the trains, and then signing it off, so that before the actual production is created.
Thank you very much. Another question for you. How does a designer adapt to cultural nuances? How much time does a designer spend on the ground to understand a new place or culture?
So partly that depends on how good the designer is, and when I say good, it means he should be able to turn himself off and just let the things come in and really register. And in this particular project, we had some great designers and researchers, and they spent a couple of weeks across multiple trips to really sort of absorb it, then get it translated into design elements, go back, get a feel of whether it's working. And then across the project, you do multiple trips, and then you start feeling that you belong to the city more and more.
Thank you very much. Another question for you. How do you think that sustainability can be brought into design approach and various solutions in the metro systems?
So one is if more people use metro, that means less people are using cars or other modes of transport, and that automatically is a huge impact on sustainability. But to get more people use it, it needs to feel delightful. You shouldn't mind maybe climbing steps if escalator is not there. It should be something that you're willing to walk instead of taking a Uber right next to your door. So creating a destination or creating a delight in your passenger journey is something that will greatly enhance the use and popularity of the metro system, and that will indirectly impact sustainability. In terms of pure materials and constructions, I think most of the metros are quite one of the best sustainable systems because they last a long time. They use, don't use any, let's say, IC engines. So yeah, of course.
Thank you very much. Another question for you. Please share your thoughts. According to you, which metro rail system in the world has the best passenger user experience?
It's I don't have an answer directly for that. It's just that I have experiences of different metros, and so I was staying in Japan for some time, and what I found in the Japan metro system or Tokyo metro system was how you can literally take everything for granted. I mean, at one stage it is robotic and almost clinical, but on the other side it is something that is so sure that irrespective of what happens anywhere in the world, that thing will work, and that gives a lot of solidity, about everything there. Again, it has its own culture, the way people behave. And if I start thinking about the answer to this question, you suddenly realize that the answer lies in the culture that is created around the metro system. So, I mean, London metro system, the underground, you just love walking into those subways because you hear beautiful music coming there, and that suddenly becomes something that you remember, right? And so rest of the metro people take for granted. It is a hygiene factor, like I said, that you have to be able to go from point A to point B safely, securely, and you should be able to find your way around. And beyond that, people are not really expecting too much out of it. So then it's these cultural and software elements that start making one metro more favorite than the other.
Okay, many thanks. Another question for you. Can you share some passenger experience touch points to reconsider globally post-COVID to enhance overall rail experience?
It's partly what what I was answering in the earlier one, where people should feel safe. People should feel that a metro is taking care. So whether it is a perceptible cleansing that happens, or reinfections that happens, or certain ways in which the seats are arranged, or certain uh, partitions are created so that it is more safe.
Many thanks. Another question, please. Could you please share your thoughts how to regain passenger trust post-COVID? How design can play a crucial role in this aspect?
Yeah, so it's partly the same answer, in the sense, metro is something that people trust. They have always been trusted, and they're just waiting to get back to it so that they can get back to life. In fact, what is now happening is, you don't think you're back to your regular life unless the metro is back, and it is so much integral to how you think what normal is. And metro will play a huge part in making people feel normal, making people feel to get back to their feet.
Okay, thank you very much. I've got one more question with regards to the pandemic. The pandemic has caused people to fear using public transport due to the crowds. How do we move ahead from here?
Yes, that's a major problem, because it's we were doing this trends analysis, and the number of cars sold has gone up drastically because people are not using metro systems. But that doesn't mean that they prefer using their car instead of the metro. They're all waiting for, like I said, uh, metro is now such an integral part of life, or was an integral part of life, that people will not feel normal unless they start getting back to that kind of life. So I would expect people to quickly get back to their earlier habits, and that's metro is an important symbol for that.
Okay, many thanks. Final two questions. First one is, can you highlight some key design and tech trends you think will drive rail passenger experience?
Yeah, so one of the trends that I'm hoping will happen is ability to slow down in life and start really enjoying what is happening, or start having a different level of depth to your experiences. And that's one trend that I'm expecting to come up. And the translation for that would be where you have work from home, that way you can have work from your coach. So I would take a London to Manchester train, and I'm working as a part of my train journey, and that just allows me to feel. You have artificial music and artificial video backgrounds to make people feel normal and feel calm. Here you have an opportunity where you can actually sit in a train, look out of the window whenever you want, get a coffee whenever you want, and still be working. And that could be a new way of working. People are sort of spending 2 hours working. They come to their office, they do a couple of meetings, maybe they have more, so it just would change how people start using metros better.
Thank you very much. Final question for you. What are some of the future trends and opportunities in rail travel?
Yeah, so Hyperloop is being talked about a lot, and that is something that is definitely people are interested, and it almost goes against the trend that I just now talked about, where instead of slowing down, Hyperloop will just make things go faster, and we'll be able to move across cities faster. And that is a trend that is coming up. Flights are equally what you call, people don't like flying, but they fly because it is required. That's part of business. But now if you think about your ability to work from a train, I would rather take a overnight train journey or a long day journey and work than just take a flight, go there, do my meeting and come back. So I feel trains will and your ability to sit in long distance trains and really work or live life will free you from the confines of the city and your job. You'll still be working, but you'll be, traveling the country while doing that.
Is Tata Elxsi doing anything in the Hyperloop?
There are a couple of engagements that is happening on the Hyperloop side, but yeah, not full-fledged. Nothing that I can currently discuss too much.
Okay. Okay, yeah, well, yeah, no, I totally understand that. Thank you. One more question as well. How long has Tata Elxsi been working in the rail and rolling stock design?
So our first engagement was Delhi Metro, where one of our key designers was the chief designer there. So that was almost 10, 12 years ago. But otherwise, we've been working at various engineering elements of rail design for almost 10 plus years. So yeah, I could definitely see minimum 10 years.
Okay, many thanks. I just want to finish with what a couple of people have just written. Thank you, Narendra. A wonderful presentation that would be very futuristic passenger experience. And Hugh was kind enough to write amazing presentation, very high level. So thank you very much, sir.
Thank you. Thank you very much.
Ladies and gentlemen, I would like to say a big thank you to Narendra from Tata Elxsi today for a superb presentation and a fantastic Q&A session. Many thanks for answering all those questions. But I have to say that was an absolutely fantastic presentation. I absolutely love that. And I love the logo. The logo is a winner for me. Brilliant.
Thank you.
Ladies and gentlemen, today's webinar will be on demand for you to rewatch. I'd like to say thank you to everybody for attending. And I would once again like to say thank you to Narendra from Tata Elxsi for, again, a wonderful presentation. Ladies and gentlemen, we do look forward to seeing you all at our next WeRail webinar. I wish you all a Merry Christmas and a Happy New Year, and please all stay safe. Thank you all. Thank you, Narendra, and goodbye.